Hello everyone and welcome to this Modern Technologies Cape Town video. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at a tool that we have developing under the Modernist suite called the Model Audit tool. This is a diagnostics tool with some advanced filtering mechanisms available as well. So let's get into it. I'm going to select Model Audit. And the first prompt I get is going to ask whether I would like to audit the entire model or the active view only, and it'll also give me a readout of how many elements are in this model. This value includes not only model geometry, but everything like views, sheets, schedules, text, annotation, items, etc. So I'm going to run an audit on the entire model, and you can see immediately this audit has completed. Now, just to put in perspective, this model is 40 megabytes in size with a total of 724 model elements. So that audit completes pretty much instantly, and you can see we've got some live feedback here about how much RAM Revit is currently using, your overall RAM that you have in your PC, how much is currently in use, and also your PC's current CPU usage relating to Revit specifically. So these live readouts can immediately give you an idea of whether or not your model is too heavy, or if you need to perhaps looking at different components for your computer. We've also got a families and types count in the top, total number of elements that have been checked, as well as the number of categories that it spans. The first thing that we can see is that we have a model geometries section over here with all of your typical model geometry. And if I continue to scroll down, I have another section here called resources, annotations, and imports, where you have things like materials, material assets, views, work planes, cameras, section boxes, etc. So looking at some of the features, firstly, what I can do is I can sort this information by category by selecting this little toggle right here, or I can sort it by the number of elements that I have in my project. So I'll start by doing it with walls, and I am able to select on that walls line item and have it isolate that category for me so that I can easily work with it. You'll see that my menu will collapse down. I can restore that at any time. And then I have the ability to select all of those walls as well. And I can combine that with my filter if I would like. Also have the ability to do a little bit more of a deep dive. If I click the little expansion button next to the walls category, it'll give me either a breakdown by family. It'll tell me how many families across how many types and how many elements, or I can change this to type, and it will give me the type breakdown. Once again, this is all selectable, so I can isolate just those types of walls and work with that data. Everything is selectable, and we've got a live readout of the percentage of the model that those items are currently taking up. I can view this in a number of different ways as well. I can either view it as a table, I can view it as a bar chart, or I can have a look at it as a pie chart just to get a quick understanding of the overall makeup of my project by category. I can also do this at the element level. The element level is capped to a total of 300 elements, but I can still search any element in the model. And I can do the same thing by work sets as well. Right now, there are no work sets available in this project, but this will break it down by work sets, number of elements in each work set, and again, allow me to isolate based off of the work set. Then the next section over here is our diagnostics area. So this is where the main value comes in. Firstly, we've got an overview. So at a very high level, this will give us a very quick breakdown once again of all the information in our project, such as views, how many views are placed onto sheets, legends, schedules, how many sheets we have, how many view templates we have, how many are in use across how many views. You can see we've got level grid information, spatial element, view filters, materials, how many are auto-generated versus how many are unused. And we've got phasing, Revit links, groups, whether design options are initiated or not, and then some warnings as well. And if we continue to scroll down, all that information is basically split up and broken down for us in pie chart form as well, so that we can once again get an understanding of the split of elements that we have in our model. Okay, and if I switch across to the families tab, for example, this is a family specific section. So this will list all of the families. It'll tell me how many I have in use of how many loadable plus how many system families. Okay, so this also gives me an understanding of whether I have a couple of redundant families living in my project that I could perhaps purge out and get rid of to conserve some space. If I scroll down, once again, everything is selectable. So if I double click on floors, for example, it'll go and highlight that floor. for all of the floors and allow me to do whatever it is I need to do with them. And I also have a select option as well. And if I click on individual elements, again, it will input a isolation mechanism for me. Okay. Then we have the ability to scan all of the .rfa families in the project. I will come back to this once I hit the action items section, because these two items are related. So for now, I'll move on to standards. Standards is going to give me an idea of how many line styles, line patterns, CAD layers, and text and dimension styles are in my project. So you can see I get a very quick breakdown. I have 20 line styles, and I can see them listed over here by weight, color, pattern, and whether they originated from the Revit document. And then if I continue to scroll down, I'll see that I have 125 line patterns. Again, a lot of them are native, but then I'll start to get to a point here where it tells me what has been imported from CAD files. Okay, so I can actually get an understanding at the BIM management level of all of the line patterns that have been brought into my project and where those actually came from. Okay, it's not uncommon for line patterns to explode quite dramatically if we are importing or linking in a lot of CAD files. If we go across to the views section, once again, a basic breakdown for me of things that may affect performance of views, like heavy display styles such as realistic or rendering, fine levels of detail, things that don't have section boxes, things that are uncropped, how many views don't contain a view template, how many are not on a sheet, and then how many have the word copy after them, signifying that you may have forgotten to rename it. Once again, we have a breakdown of all of the individual views, and if I scroll right down to the bottom, I've also got all of my unused view templates that are in this project as well. All of these once again are clickable, so I can see 3D view 2, no view template, realistic style, and no section box. If I click on that, it will immediately take me to that view, and I can adjust any of the settings that I require. Moving along to the integrity section. Integrity section is going to give me some really useful insights. Firstly, it will record the farthest element away from the origin. So as we know, Revit struggles with information beyond 1 kilometer and very unreliable beyond 16 kilometers. So it'll actually point those elements out to you if they do exist very far away, and will again allow you to click and go zoom straight to that object to do whatever it is you need to do with it. If I have Revit links in my project, it'll also show me whether the links are on a shared coordinate system or whether they haven't been coordinated, and also what their rotation values are. And we can see down here, I also have a phasing section split by how many phases I have and how many elements are in each phase. Once again, that is clickable, and it will allow me to isolate those elements on the particular phases that I'm interested in. If I go ahead quickly and just link in a Revit model, I will perform a rotation, and I'll go ahead and I'll publish the coordinates to one of these files, and I'll go and run my model audit once again. If I go back to the integrity section, I can see that I have one link. I can see that the coordinates are aligned. It's giving me information that it's not pinned and that it has been rotated by 12 degrees. So I know that they're on the same coordinate system. And I can also click the zoom button, which will actually take me to that specific link in question and select it for me, again, to make whatever modifications I need. Okay, if I move across to the data section, what this is currently doing is this is recording whether or not the project information has been filled in. So we can see none of these are currently set. And then it's also recording how many elements have a mark, a type mark, a material, an assembly code, and a fire rating filled in. Again, all of this is selectable and clickable. And if we go and take walls as an example, you can see walls have basically nothing filled in except for material. So if I go and assign a assembly code or a fire rating, and I run my model audit tool once again, and I click on the data section, I will see that the walls have now been updated, that 12% of the walls in my project now have an assembly code as well as a fire rating. If I go across to the warnings section, this is going to read out all of the Revit warnings that are currently in place. You can see warnings by cost. They've been split into low, medium, and heavy impacts, and then warnings by kind as well. If I scroll down, I'll have the individual warnings available to me, how many elements are selected, and once again, the ability to select or isolate them. So highlighted walls overlap, I can isolate those two elements, and I can immediately go and rectify the issue. And if I click on the next one, for example, that's going to isolate the staircase for me that is currently in question. That'll allow me to go and make changes. And then once again, with the last option as well. Then finally, we have an action items section where we'll get a breakdown of all of the things that we have actually covered over here, plus a few more little options. I'm not going to run through all of them, but just as a basic idea, here's the view settings. 5 views use the realistic or rendering display. I can hit that drop down and select any one of these to be transported to that view. I can see that there are duplicate types, or it thinks that there are duplicate types. So there are 3 variants in the generic models. So if I hit that, I can just see they're called generic models 1, 2, and 3. So once again, perhaps I forgot to rename them. Okay, the same thing is true for curtains, same thing is true for ceilings and books. I've got some analytical nodes, and I've got 10 CAD imports nested inside loaded family. So if I hit this drop down, what this is currently reading out is just the information from my visibility graphics. From the imported category section, the imports in family. So it's reading this directly. Now this is where I said that I would come back to the measure real.rfa sizes. If I click on this button, it's going to background open and close every single loaded family in my project, and it's going to do 2 things. It's going to measure the size in kilobytes or megabytes, so we can immediately flag any information that is too big that shouldn't be in our project. And it is also going to tell us exactly which information, exactly which families in the project have the CAD files embedded in them. Okay, so there are 2 flavors of this. If I leave this unticked to not run a full scan, I can click measure real RFA sizes, and Revit will run for a flat 2 minutes. And at the end of 2 minutes, however many families it has gotten through in that time, it will stop there. Of course, if there are fewer families than it takes to run 2 minutes, it will complete the whole scan. Alternatively, I can tick this to put on the full scan, and then it will go through and scan every family regardless of how long that takes. It will report actual file size, and it will report whether or not they have any CAD files embedded into them. Okay, so I'll go ahead and run this, and I will record how long it takes, and I will just stop the video here. Okay, so to scan 87 loadable component families took 1 minute and 20 seconds, and you can see here is the measured.rfa size. So a new column appears letting us know how big each one of these families actually are. And if we go to the action items section now, here we've got 10 loaded families contain nested CAD imports measured by family scan. So if we hit that drop down, here is a list of the actual model elements that contain embedded CAD files. So if I click on any one of them, for example, I can also isolate them if I'd want to do that and just get an overall picture here of all of the files that contain CAD files. Okay, and I can see they're all highlighted for me. And if I had to select on one of them and go into the family, I would see that that is a CAD import. Okay, so this is very, very useful for diagnosing large files. And sometimes this information can be a little trickier to find than we would like. So this just gives us an immediate understanding of where we can go and look for this information. If I continue to scroll down the list over here, we'll see that it'll also tell us how many unplaced families we have in our project. So it'll give us an accurate estimation or readout of how many files are in our project browser but not in use, how many materials are assigned to nothing, how many material names exist in 3 very near identical variants. So we can see jacuzzi color, and if I had to go to my materials, jacuzzi, I can see we've got jacuzzi 1, 2, and 3, as well as 4. Okay, we will also get information about 13 view templates are applied to no views, and it will list all of the templates. These are just pretty much the default templates. No view templates have been applied in this particular project. 35 of 35 views have no view template. 11% of model elements carry no classification code. So again, that's coming back from the data section. as well as how many in-place families are in the model, which again is a sign of slow models, or at least can be. So being able to identify what has been modeled in place can be very important on slower models. So I can isolate these as well, and it will just immediately show me all of the information or all of the items that have been modeled using the in-place model tool. So that is everything to do with the tool. And then what we can do to wrap everything up is that we can actually take this information and we can export it directly to Excel, and we'll get pretty much exactly the same breakdown. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a summary section over here with all of the cards from the overview panel telling me a bunch of information, pulls through all of my charts and elements by category. And then I've got the same thing where it breaks down my categories for me. It'll break down profile, so all of my room area, views, CAD imports, view types, view templates, etc. All of my families will pull through, how many I have of each one, how many types are loaded in, the category as well as the size if I have run the scan. All of my standards, so my line styles and my line patterns come through, telling me what is native and what has been imported from CAD. All of my view information, once again. Okay, any information about the coordinates and elements that are very far away from the origin, as well as phasing. Then my data information, how many elements contain a mark, type mark, material classification, etc. Then a breakdown of my warnings and my charts as well. All of the individual elements that I have in this model. And then all of the action items. Of course, in Excel, they're going to be non-clickable, but all of the action items that are available to me as well. Okay, so this is a very, very powerful tool to get quick, accurate overview of your model and to understand the state that it is currently in at that moment. If you are interested in this tool, please reach out to us. We also provide a service where we will run a model through the model audit, provide you with the Excel report, and then you can diagnose and move forward with your project with the understanding of where the model currently sits. This tool is available for Revit 2025, 2026, and 2027. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions, please post them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. See you in the next one.